Josh Hart returning to the starting lineup. Knicks improving their record with Hart in the starting lineup to 12-3. I'm not counting that Christmas Day game because he left that game before their comeback, but 12-3 when he's starting, and they were 3-5 when he was out, including having lost 5 of 6. So maybe it's too reductive to say that Josh Hart cures everything that ails the Knicks. I think that is the case, but his impact is undeniable. Mill, did you think that the Knicks were making a mistake? Mike Brown was making a mistake earlier in the season by bringing Hart off the bench.
Yeah, Hart was going through a rough stretch there. His shooting was definitely not what we're used to. His percentages were down, and it looked like he was in a rut himself. I understand that decision, putting him on the bench at the time. He was experimenting. This is Mike Brown's first season as our head coach. He admitted himself he has to experiment with different lineups. And, it turns out that that wasn't the right decision, but I'm sure he can admit that as well, that we need Hart in the starting lineup. You said it just now, 12-3 in the starting lineup. Numbers don't lie. That's just a great statistic right there that goes to show Josh Hart's impact is surreal when he's in the starting lineup, and it impacts winning. I definitely am so glad that his shooting percentages are up now, and he's shooting a lot better than he did when he started the season. But his impact goes beyond shooting. It's between all of the little things he does, rebounding, passing the ball, keeping it moving ahead coast to coast. He does everything. He could bring up the ball, he can grab boards, he can shoot now. And I mean, his impact is just incredible. And, there's not necessarily a hustle column you'll see in the statistics or the box score, but that's why this 12-3 record is so important to point out, because, he is a winning player, and it's proven that when he's in the starting lineup, we win games. So that stretch without him was really rough on the Knicks. They needed him bad. He's the glue of this team. He holds them together. He's the heart of this team as well. So without him, they were struggling.
Yeah, and Mikal Bridges said that he's probably the fastest, certainly one of the fastest Knicks with the ball in his hand. Mill, so you mentioned, getting a rebound, pushing up the floor. That's what he's been so good at since coming to New York, and I'm sure earlier in his career too. But he's really impacted the Knicks in many different ways, particularly that way. And when somebody re-enters the rotation, someone else leaves the rotation. A lot of questions about how this will impact people's minutes at the end of the rotation. Tyler Kolek, do his minutes get impacted? What is his role moving forward if Josh Hart's back? And then looking ahead, Landry Shamet coming back. I think that if I'm guessing that Kolek would be the player most impacted by the return of Josh Hart and later on Landry Shamet once he comes back. It's hard to see a regular role for Kolek with those two guys healthy. Mike Brown obviously open to trying many different things, open to experimenting in the regular season. So maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe he sticks with Kolek and their other configurations. But Mill, for you, Josh Hart's back. Let's say Landry Shamet's back. How do you approach that rotation if you're making those decisions?
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see how Mike Brown plays this out. We have a lot of good guards on this team, and Kolek might not get as many minutes as he did just because, Hart is going to get that start. And when we have McBride coming off the bench, he's deserved those minutes off the bench. He's our sixth man. He's not going to just be put to the side so Kolek can come in. Deuce is our guy, and I expect him to, take back his role that he had on the bench before he was out. Kolek, on the other hand, it's going to be hard to find him minutes. As you said, there's so many guards on this team. I would love to have him still involved one way or another. I know it's going to be hard, but Kolek has shown such great potential in these past few months between the NBA Cup tournament game, Christmas Day. It's been so fun watching him play and the impact that he's had. I mean, I'm sure not a lot of us thought he could do this. We hadn't seen this from him last season because he wasn't really given that opportunity. So to see this from him this season, it's been delightful. And I absolutely love that we have some young guys that can perform like that because, while you're contending for a championship, you also also want to be building the youth and to be building those young guys up. And I think he plays really well. He's a great pass first point guard. His passing ability, his vision is undeniably it's ahead of its time. And a lot of people say he's a defensive liability, but I do think that he brings something to the defensive lineups as well. And we've seen that with our own eyes in lineups where he's able to hustle out there and make an impact. I think he's a little bit of a menace out there. I'm not gonna lie. I'm seeing some moments from him where he is showing that he has that grit and he has that heart as well. It'll be a shame if he, gets put on the bench and we won't see much from him from now on, but I'm hoping that's not the case. It's going to be hard to fit all these guys in, but Kolek has shown us what he can do, and I'm hoping we can see some more of that some way.
A question that we got from the Raskins, and the Raskins is asking, are there issues in the locker room impacting the team chemistry on the court? It comes across that way. Last year, this is something I referenced a lot, where I think that there was some of the players, there was a me above we for much of the regular season. I thought it had gone away in the postseason, and everybody seemed to be kind of sacrificing for the greater good. But just based on what I was hearing last regular season, it seemed like there were some locker room issues there. I haven't heard of any this year. Not to say that means that there are none, but there's none that I've heard of. You've seen Towns, and you've seen him kind of searching for his role in the offense. But there's always going to be somebody who feels like they should get the ball more, somebody who feels like they're not getting enough shots in an NBA locker room. You can always find a player who's unhappy with his role. But as far as anything that's, beyond that, beyond just the normal day-to-day NBA life, I haven't heard of anything there. And I guess, you keep your eye on Towns, and you see how he adjusts in this offense. You see what his performance looks like. But I do think he's missing open three-pointers, the open looks at a very high rate, the misses. And so I would think that goes the other way at some point, but something to keep an eye on. And I think a good question from the Raskins about the locker room stuff. I haven't heard it this year, heard it a little bit last year.